Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, one chaos coordinator, and a Stabby chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners, viewers at home. And we're going to start with the one, the only, Mr. Jarret Keene.
Hello, I am a professor at UNLV in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am the author of the post-apocalyptic adventure story Hammer of the Dogs, starring the warrior Lash, set in ruined Las Vegas, where the teenagers are killing each other with drones.
That's where the idea for the panel came from when he told me about the book. All right, next we got the lovely Mr. J.F. Holmes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all the ships at sea. I am J.F. Holmes. I am I'm a writer occasionally and the owner of Canon Publishing, which specializes in military science fiction, fantasy, all that other jazz. So that's me. And go check out our stuff, which I don't think we have any drone-specific books yet, but we'll get one in the pipeline.
And when he says jazz, ironically, they also do not produce jazz music, though. So that's a little bit of false advertising, but he can be forgiven. Next, we have Mr. J.R. Wise, the skinnier and prettier J.R.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I was once skinny like that.
Yeah, funny thing is that at a convention, JF there and I realized that we're both John and our wives are both Karen, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
but
both beautiful.
When John married the Karen, it was when Heather's were Karen. So it was before Karen's were Karens because he's old enough for that.
Yeah. Marine Corps veteran, currently work for a fire department, also occasionally write when I have time. I was late hopping onto this because I actually found some time to write and got into it. Thanks for messaging me, JR.
Absolutely. And he forgot to tell you the most important part. He also got smart, and then he joined the Army.
Grass wasn't greener on the other side.
But the uniforms were.
So apparently RJs do not stand for the same thing.
No.
What's the R stand for?
Richard.
Oh, nope, not even the same at all.
Oh.
You lost school points, kid.
Damn.
And last, but certainly not least, we have the one, the only, the voice in your head, Mr. Michael LaVoice.
Hello, I'm sci-fi and fantasy author Michael LaVoice, a.k.a. LaVoice in your head. And I am the author of the Galaxy's Most Wanted series, the Gladius League series, and the soon-to-be coming from Chris Kennedy Publishing, the Sarcom series with co-author Peter Stanley, who is the author of the CavDev cycle. And when I'm not doing all that, I have a day job at a children's research hospital. When I'm not doing that, I'm putting videos out on TikTok and YouTube.
And you did a really good job of training your co-writer. He no longer sends me weird messages in the middle of the night.
Every once in a while, I'll see I have a missed call from him at like 3 a.m. And it's like,
defense, he is from
forgot.
New Zealand, so time zones are a thing.
Yes.
But we used to get weird calls because, he asked me for questions about the military stuff, and I'm like, it's like 4 a.m.
And he would be like, yeah, but it's 4 a.m. yesterday, mate.
He's good people though, and he writes some good stories, so he can be forgiven for a lot. But now,
Master world builder,
he is indeed. But now we have the religion question, the most important one, the one question to decide all the others. So we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how are you taking it this fall, Jarret?
Well, I'll just say that coffee is something I enjoy all year long, but this season I'm really digging into this sugar-free peanut butter flavor that I found in the Marshalls on discount.
I know you told us at the last interview, and I still haven't wrapped my mind around this. This will actually air in October. So the last interview you were on, we'll have some time to have percolated that. So we might be getting angry messages this time around. But peanut butter and coffee, I mean, I don't hate the idea, but I haven't tried
Sugar-free
it.
peanut butter.
Yeah, the sugar-free, I think, makes all the difference. So do you remember when you were a kid, you used to do the peanut butter and honey sandwiches?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could do peanut butter and honey coffee. That would
That's
work.
exactly. That's
I've
exactly
been
what
known
I'm
to put
enjoying right
honey in my coffee on occasion, so yeah, it's doable.
JR's over there
Works.
thinking, that's not on your diet. Stop that, JR. All right. What about you, Holmes?
Well, I was watching Robert F. Kennedy on TV the other day, and he recommended coffee enemas to cure asthma, I think it was. So that's right. No, I drink tea because I am a civilized person. So
Do you pinky out? Indeed. And so just if you're going to listen and you're going to do that coffee enema, please, not boiling hot. We do not want to see you on that EMT medic who makes all the snarky YouTube and TikTok videos, all the things you shouldn't do. You don't want to be that guy that he mocks for the world to see.
That's right. But I love that guy. He's great.
He's hilarious. Holy crap, Michael! How big is that coffee cup?
It's a 16-ounce coffee mug.
It's almost as big as your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slightly less than my ego.
Only slightly. All right, JR. How are you taking your coffee or tea this fall?
Green tea, hot with a little honey in it.
Okay. Do you care what kind of green tea, or is any green tea will do?
Pretty much anything will do. I'm not picky.
What about chai? You do chai?
I do love chai.
That's just tea. You just said tea twice.
Yes,
I didn't say chai tea. I said chai.
I didn't say chai tea either. I said chai, but it's green-ish.
Yeah, but you said chai after saying tea, so it's just like saying tea twice. So
I was listing it as a type of green tea because it's green, and I can do that color. I know that color.
okay.
All right. Jiminy crickets, Michael. What are you drinking, Michael? Besides the booze, clearly, because you're like a little tipsy right now, I think.
I haven't had a drink. Anyway, no, coffee. Black as my soul, as always.
Okay. So it's fall. I haven't had my first one yet at time of recording, but it is October when we air this. So I'll have at least one pumpkin spice latte because I am a basic white girl. But I do love them. I am just waiting to see if someone other than Starbucks will make a decent one so I can, support companies that, don't hate me.
Does Coffee Brand Coffee not have one yet?
Sometimes they will do flavored, but I want to do I like the latte. One of the friends of the show, Maggie, she sent me a recipe on how to take a pumpkin and make your own like syrup, and then you can make your own latte with it. But it seemed like a lot of work. The drive-through seemed like it'd be a lot quicker. So I don't know. This might be the year I buy the espresso machine and just commit to the bit. I don't know, but for me, I'm gonna try that pumpkin spice latte. I will not go backwards, and I will not do what Starbucks used to sell when I was working my way through grad school. They had the maple latte that had so much sugar in it. The American Heart Association asked them to stop making it.
Ooh.
It tasted like a pancake in a cup, and all the Canadians said or whatever they say when they're not eating cheese curds. And send the hate mail our way. JR, you don't have to look sad. We'll share it with you. All right. So today's topic, obviously, if you read the title card, dear listener, are drones and speculative fiction. So first, obviously, in case you live under a rock and you don't know what a drone is, I'm going to read the definition a la Google. And a drone is a powered unmanned aircraft, also known as an unmanned aerial vehicle or unmanned aerial system, UAV or UAS, that can fly with a pilot on board, without a pilot on board, with a varying degrees of autonomy or on a variety of purposes and missions. Wow, it's almost like I never learned to read. I need to try Hooked on Phonics again, clearly. Woo! So now that we know what a drone is, why do you think they are so popular in speculative fiction?
I think there's a lot of things you can do with them that you maybe can't do with a person, and you can really play with the morality of things. Like, depending on the level of autonomy, it doesn't necessarily have feelings or morals or whatever. So you could commit just awful atrocities with these things, but the people didn't do it. Or you could put whole armies of them out there and save your own people while whittling away the enemy.
I think it was the first time I ran across drones in SpecFic was G. Harry Stein's Warbots series.
Yeah.
And that was, mid to late 80s, I think he started putting those out. And it was a cool premise because he started it out in a world where we had gotten rid of boots on the ground. Everybody was piloting various drones of different kinds. And then we ran across a new type of enemy that required us to actually put our flesh bodies back in harm's way. And so we had to relearn that. And that's kind of a theme that stuck with me and became part of Gladius Leagues, because the whole thing was we had to relearn how to fight there too. And it's a fascinating thing for me. But they had really cool drones. They had rat bots and fly bots and big combat like tanks, but they all piloted them remotely from these like I guess you'd have to call them like a VR couch kind of a setup. And so it was a really cool series. There was a whole lot of books in that series. It was more than 12.
I've seen lots of depictions, but if you look at the way they're used in modern times, the one that comes to my mind first and foremost is during COVID, Japan locked down really, really tightly. So the Yakuza decided, well, we got to get our drugs out. So they were using drones to ship their drug supplies. So the Japanese police said, well, we'll just send drones with nets to capture their drones with drugs. Sure. So they did. And so the Yakuza said, okay, well, I'll put my drone with a stick to knock the drone with the net out of the air so my drone with the drugs can make it through. So we had jousting in the air. And then you just sort of had escalating forces. At a certain point in time, I think the drugs were just a way to keep score, and it was really just a bunch of nerds with joysticks having fun, where I think they kind of lost the plot. It was hilarious to read the updates in the news columns that were coming through. And you saw some of that and we'll stay apolitical, but we saw some of that in the war in Ukraine, where both sides have been using drones. They literally have drones with sticks on them to try to knock out the drones with the bombs. Right. I mean, you basically got drones jousting each other. If I had written before it happened,
go back to the Yakuza story. Were they posting kill-death ratios in the news reports? I have to know.
I did not see that, but I didn't think to look because I'm not enough of a gamer, clearly.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna have to look it up when we're done with the show, and I will let you know.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's one of those things. If we had written that before it happened for real, people are like, "Oh, that's unbelievable." They would never do that. So, so when you see them in fiction, do you prefer them to be grounded in reality or rule of cool?
The rule of cool, I think. Well, we've come so far with technology now that used to be science fiction. I mean, the idea of using drones in combat used to be nothing but spec fic, and now it's something that we have guys in the services that refer to themselves as UAV pilots, and that's what they do, and that's all they do. So I think spec fic is probably going to have to ramp up its game as far as what our drones are capable of. I know in some of my stories, I've featured drones that have very specialized functions, like sensor drones that fly ahead of people and record sensor loops and play them back so you can spoof the security systems and stuff like that. I think you're going to see a lot more specialized uses of drones because, we see that in the real world, they're moving from large combat platforms to the swarm method.
Yeah.
Drone swarms are becoming more popular and more frequently in use because it's basically just harder to defend against them. So I think we're going to have to see in Specfic a shift to make it more, what direction could we take this? And it would still be cool, but it would also be somewhat practical.
So the Dust Channel did this a few years ago. They called the video Slaughterbots, and they were originally going to go after bad guys, but inevitably they got turned and they were used against their own people. I won't spoil why and how, but they were swarm tactics was how they were used, and there was hell to pay. And that was the first time I encountered that in speculative fiction, although now I want to go back and read Warbots.
There's a story by Philip K. Dick long time ago where there was the Russians and the Americans were fighting a war, and pretty much everything was done by bots, but they were robot shaped. And not to give it away, but eventually the robots tricked their way into the base, it's a great story, right? That story scared the crap out of me as a soldier, and realizing what was going to happen. And that was a long time ago. One of the problems I'm running into as an author is keeping up with the drone stuff, because it's like as soon as I think of something, I see it on the news, right? Somebody's already doing it. So how as fiction writers can we do that, projecting it, even a year from now, things are going to be different, right? So 4 years ago, who would have thought that drones would be controlling the battlefield almost? But here we are. So how do we keep up with? Philip K. Dick was writing in the 60s and 70s, and he could think decades ahead. We can't think more than a year, 6 months ahead to figure out what's going on.
Because technology is cascading faster and faster.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one way to do that is to attend some of these UAV technology conferences and conventions. That's how I came to. That's how I came to write Hammer of the Dogs. I was actually at the time. This was 15 years ago, working on the Las Vegas Strip, writing employee newsletters for Mandalay Bay, and I noticed there was a UAV convention in the space there. 1 million square feet, all of it filled to the brim with UAV tech. And I crashed that convention with my employee badge. And this is 15 years ago. And I just started picking up brochures and catalogs. And then once I had my like a backpack full of that stuff, I started talking to people. And that's where things got really scary, because that's where I learned about concepts like the singularity. So you have this, gathering of this intersection, if you will, of military technology, higher education, engineering programs, law enforcement. You have foreign dignitaries from, uh, you know, international governments showing up to figure out how they're going to pacify their populations using this new tech. And I had a stack of magazines, technical manuals, and I just sifted through all that to world build, to create, the environment of Hammer of the Dogs. And it was like, I want to go back, because, everything that I picked up is so old now, but to the point that this book is almost like a retro future shock um, glimpse of 2000s era UAV combat. And I just was but I put it all in there. I mean, the dirigibles, the UAV dirigibles, the submarines, the the war bots, the law enforcement you know line of sight drones that you use to for SWAT missions and things like that. It was just the little flies that they would the surveillance spying drones. It's
At
just
one point,
incredible.
Gibson became obsessed with UAVs,
Yeah.
and in Spook Country, I think it was
Mhm.
Spook Country, he did a whole lot with a dirigible type drone UAV. Jarret, did we lose you? He froze.
He froze, but just keep going.
Anyway, no, Spook Country was part of the pattern recognition, the Blue Ant trilogy. It was pattern recognition, then Spook Country, and then Zero History. And drones featured quite heavily in those stories. Those were really cool Gibson stories to me, because he shifted everything Gibson had done before that was very near future, but more far future than, but this one was just like, it could have been next week that these stories took place, because the technology he was talking about was everything that we were already using. He was just putting the Gibson spin on it. But he really did get obsessed with UAVs, Zeppelin UAVs, in that second book in that series.
Well, I'm sure he attended one of these conferences or conventions, and
No doubt.
they're so valuable, because you get to see all the it's actually a little bit depressing, because you see how all these forces are working together to kind of prop up this industry that, let's face it, is probably a little bit out of control. But I'm so fascinated by it. I don't want it to be controlled, because what it's creating is so deliciously imaginative.
Where do we see it going though? With like, we have quasi autonomous drones for the most part. The Fury, I'm told, is it's mostly autonomous, but I think it still requires some direction from the human element. I guess maybe one of the directions we could start moving towards is fully autonomous drones, and that's scary, because then
So
we're talking the same issues we have with other AI stories, right?
you end up with something like what they did, Terry Mixon and Jay and Cheney did with the Last Hunter series, where you end up with essentially carrier ships deploying swarms of ships that both attack and then break everything down to rebuild and terraform and do all the things. And then you just need, the one ship to control and send the messages out, the mothership, as it were. And I think that's doable. I've seen some where they've been used small form drones as a way to combat the dying bee population, to terraform planets with pollination and stuff. So I've seen it be used.
Partlow had a book back in the day. I can't remember the title, but I remember clearly there were these drones that they would send out as part of their exploration, and these things would they had the capability to mine asteroids for raw materials, and then they had 3D printers and fabricators on board that they could create tools that they needed, and then they could start terraforming local planets in the system that they were exploring. And so it was just like a one-stop shop exploration / colonization drone. Man, I gotta look that up. It was fascinating to me as far as the tech that he was describing. I have to go find that book.
It does sound interesting. Although when I asked Partlow about being on this panel, he said he never writes drones. He doesn't like them. So are you sure?
I don't know that he really called it a drone. I don't think that's basically what I think he was thinking it more of as an autonomous exploration vehicle. But to me, it kind of read like a drone, albeit a very large one and a very complicated one. But
yeah,
still,
that's because Rick is actually a machine himself. So,
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Cyborg. So do you think at any point in time you're going to see where people are writing sentient drones in their speculative fiction?
That's already been
kind of
done.
already did.
Terminator.
I mean, Galaxy's Most Wanted has ships in it that are piloted by artificial intelligences. They don't need a human component. But albeit they do, well, let me say, some do, some don't. Some of them are fully autonomous, but they are combined with an organic brain.
Yeah.
So you have to have both components. But some of them are perfectly capable of doing most of their functions by themselves.
That's one of the common tropes you see, is that they can't attack. They can defend themselves, but they can't attack without human or life form, because you don't want the robots taking over, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
These AIs, they would need a human pilot to designate the targets, and then they could shoot them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like Pacific Rim is no fun if there's no human pilot in the giant mech.
Right.
I
Right.
think that's what adds to the drama and the psychology of the characters. I mean, you could always explore the psychology of a sentient drone, or AI or whatever, but it's not. I don't know. It doesn't sound as interesting as that cyborg, conflict.
If you guys ever watched the Orville,
Yeah.
With the Kalon race, that's an entire race of sentient machines or drones, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and they do that really well. It's something that it's there, it's a reality, and how are we going to deal with it? I think is the things that we need to write about. Maybe not the drones themselves, but how our characters deal with it.
What do you think, JR? You've been awful quiet.
I mean, JF brings up a good point of that whole race of drones essentially, and you see that a lot in video games. It's a huge trope in video games where you have like robot armies you have to fight. I think everybody who's ever met me knows I'm a huge Helldivers fan. One of the major factions is essentially a bunch of drones, or autonomous bots, whatever you want to call them. But I was thinking about a book that I just started reading, the Cyber City Saga by Matthew Goodwin, and my mind keeps flashing back to these drones that you could like special order that could look like anyone you wanted, and then you could have sex with them. And
Like Westworld.
that's gonna like Westworld. I just that book comes to mind because I just recently read it. But I think if there's anything we've learned from how AI is developing, that's probably gonna be a thing that people try and do very soon.
Oh, of course.
China's already trying to make robots with artificial wombs, although I think that's just more of a gimmick in the propaganda than anything.
Oh, great! Now the robots can have babies.
Well, they're trying to combat your population implosion more than anything. But the whole West is with that. So it's interesting to see if that actually works. I suspect it won't, but it made a good headline. So we can talk about it. But yeah, that becomes to, at what point in time is it a drone versus if it becomes sentient, is it still a drone or is it, something else? Is it a cyborg? Is it, where's the line
if it becomes sapient, because remember, Dude Man chastised us for using the word sentient when we really mean sapient. But when they do achieve sapience, no, we did a whole show about artificial intelligence and stuff. And who was it? Was it who was that guy? He really gave us a tongue lashing over using sentient when we meant sapient. But the point is that if they do achieve that level of intelligence, and then they make machines themselves, like in the Matrix. Are the little tenders in the fields of artificial wombs, are they drones? Or because they're being directed by the higher machine intelligences, or are they themselves sapient and intelligent? I don't know. They never really went into detail on that. But I don't think it stays a drone at that point. Once it can make its own decisions, it's no longer a drone. I think no matter how autonomous our drones are right now, they're still programmed. They're still told what to do.
I think the unmanned part of it implies controlled outside of itself. I think if you end up where it's self-controlled, the unmanned becomes redundant and it doesn't apply anymore. So I would think you're right. Sure. If it becomes sentient and sapient, it probably is no longer a drone.
I wouldn't think so.
It becomes
playing God is fun too, or fun to write about. You look at your screen and you decide who lives and who dies. It's part of I think the thrill of writing about drones, or at least that was what I found interesting in writing my book and researching the book especially. And I've had drone pilots in my classes here. Well, not here at College of Southern Nevada. And that was interesting, to talk to them and interview them about their thoughts on, I don't know, like the Iliad or the Odyssey, or something, the Aeneid. They had some interesting takes. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, there's like the drone is like a filter, or at least the interface is a filter between you and the consequences of your actions. You can always sort of push off any psychological conflict or challenges. You can, it was ultimately a machine that did it. Even though you're the one.
Almost like Ender's Game.
Yes, precisely. That's really the drone novels of all drone novels. I still think it holds up.
Yeah. That's an interesting. The one thing I don't think we've touched on, but I have seen I was at a bar one night playing darts, and it was on in the background. There actually are race events where people race drones through it's darkened tracks with like lighted hoops that they're flying through.
Yeah.
For a psychedelic, I couldn't watch it with my head injury. It was just made me dizzy. But the whole point is they're flying their drone through like the target hoops that are alight, and it's just to see who can make it through the target, hit every loop, and every whatever in the fastest time.
Yeah, our fire department actually kind of does something like that for training, because we have a drone team where for big incidents they'll put drones in the air to with like thermal imaging, and look for hot spots after the fire's out or supposedly out, or But to train, they'll set up these little obstacle courses out in the field where they have to fly through things, around things, and it's very much a race. And they let me pilot one once, and I crashed the damn thing. I'm not allowed to touch them anymore.
What was it difficult that made you crash it? Because I've never actually flown one.
So like it was going through. They have a bunch of like boxes set up as like little hoops to go through, and it was. I don't want to say how big the box is, but it was massive, and I somehow still crashed into the side.
Well,
so you
we
did
need
hit
to
the
mer-
broadside of a barn.
Yep, I can.
Nice.
Well, I always think we need to merge the drone racing with battle bots. You know, so like the drone,
Right.
the drones that race
Oh.
are armed, and then you know,
Yeah.
that would make it a lot.
Then
more
you have
interesting.
Death Race 3000 via drones. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I would
didn't they
read
have a
the hell out
TV
of
show that they did that on though? Like drones were battling it out in like an arena. Robotics
yeah, but
teams were
they
building
were grounded. They
robots.
were on.
They were on the
battle
ground.
bots.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
here in
yeah. That's
Vegas,
it. That's it. Yeah.
We have here the battle bots show in Vegas, so you can pay money to get buy tickets to witness a BattleBot spectacle. But I think the racing, having them airborne and shooting flamethrowers and
Or jousting.
or just jousting, sure, that'd be fine.
Sure.
We could start with jousting,
There you
but
go.
I want to get right to the flamethrowers and the
Because flamethrowers are
that.
fun.
You never know when Nevada will get snow, and you just need to clear it really quickly. All right.
Yeah.
And a flamethrower is great for that.
That's right.
Just the fire department does not endorse that. We know that, JR. You're covered.
Oh no! I told them I want to buy a flamethrower, and they said if I do, just bring it out to the training center and we'll burn some stuff with it.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, not regulated as a firearm, by the way. You can just go buy one.
You should not have told me that.
Well,
Now
they're
we're
also
gonna
they're using drones on the cell phone towers to inspect them and do safety checkups or whatever. I've noticed that here in downtown Las Vegas.
When I was doing IT support for the CN Railroad, they were using them to do track inspection in hard to reach areas or places they didn't necessarily want to send somebody out on the tracks. And some of those drones are quite pricey that they were using for that.
I imagine it's going forward. Security teams are going to use them for site reconnaissance. They're being used in battle spaces for reconnaissance. So,
well, they're not using them enough. I mean, given the recent news stories on the yes, I don't know why there's not drones like surveilling, say these
Public events, looking at rooftops.
The Utah campus,
the one golf where Trump was shot at too. Like I think those events that were going to change things going forward, where we're going to actually start seeing that become just a normal part of VIP defense packaging.
Yeah, well, what does that mean for privacy? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
that actually has come up in a couple cases. So there's one where Google Earth is being sued because they were doing flyovers for their Google Earth, and they caught a dude in his backyard with a woman, not his wife, in the pool. And he's suing because that made the Google Earth image because, they're just snapping shots and not necessarily going frame by frame.
Next thing you know, Coldplay's got a music video for it.
I was going to say that's worse than the
So it comes down to twofold. One, are you do you own because when you buy your house, you own the house, you own the ground. Mineral rights below you were different, which people in Texas sometimes run into. Like I own the house, but I didn't own the oil underneath it. But then, at what point in time does the air above your house is it yours? Because at a certain point,
there's already existing FAA regulations.
So the FAA regulation sets the low cap on when they take over, but it doesn't say from there to the ground who owns what and what is responsible, because they haven't regulated it. That's why you don't see some of the flying car stuff. But that does mean it gets, because if someone's flying a drone over my property, can I shoot it down or not, or is it destructive of someone else's property? It has come up in a few Peeping Tom cases that have they've made those cases go away in such a way that they didn't have to decide case law on the issue of drones because nobody wanted to touch it. But it's one of those things where, like, your property rights versus the right of the drone owner, is it becomes an issue that law is going to have to catch up with. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the privacy expectations? Because you don't have an expectation of privacy in public, but you do to an extent in your backyard. So how does that factor in?
And what about cops? Do they need a warrant? I mean, to fly over your house, or is it just hey, we can do what we want in the name of security. That's always, security versus freedom.
But think about school shootings, like all of a lot of these stories we've been reading about. If we had drones on the perimeter of these campuses, because they always come off campus, they roll up in a car, they get out of the car, and they start walking, and they look. We've seen the footage, and it looks messed up, and you can instantly recognize something's wrong here. Why don't we have those kinds of safety? It's all available. It's been available. That technology has been available for 15 years. I was at the conventions in Las Vegas and saw what they're capable of. Why are they not being implemented? I
I
don't
think a
know.
lot of that's going to come down to money, Jarret. I mean,
Sure.
who pays for
Sure.
it? Does the school system take taxpayer dollars and pay for a setup like that?
Right.
And if so, how much is that going to cost? It's generally comes down to a money issue.
And
It's
it's a balance
one of
of
the
that
bigger
versus,
reasons a lot of school districts don't hire security guards or
Right.
use resource officers because it costs money.
and it's that versus static cameras becomes an issue. But
Yeah.
while you think about those deep thoughts, dear listener, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly show for the man, and then we're going to drop right back into this deep topic where we're going to solve all of the world's problems.
Across 1,000 battlefields and 1,000,000 wars, there is always a question. What do you do when all the chips are on the table? Do you run? Try to find salvation in the arms of an easy peace? Or do you stand and fight and send your enemies into whatever hole they crawled out of? On Deadly Ground, a heroic Last Stand anthology, has 10 stories addressing that question. Each character faces the impossible in different ways, but all will be tested before the day is done. Can they earn a heroic victory amongst the endless eternity of space, or are they doomed to fall into obscurity?
All right, thank you for sticking with us to that commercial interlude, and we are back to the topic of drones and speculative fiction. So, yeah, it's interesting. We haven't seen the laws catch up with the concept of drones, so that is going to be different country by country, and it's going to be an ever-shifting topic, I suspect. But in speculative fiction, like we've talked about them broadly, they can do a little bit of everything. Do you have a favorite specialization that you like to see them used for when you're reading or writing with drones involved?
I think one of the things that I want to explore, because it's come up more than once in different IPs, is the idea that there's this myth, and I think it's a myth, basically, because there's this myth that the drone can never completely outthink a human being because we make those irrational snap decisions and that kind of. We see it in Star Wars, like in the drone pilots taking on the human pilots from Naboo and the droid army just not being that smart. But I think we need to consider we already have software that has been programmed to play chess that's freaking near impossible to beat by a human. So I'm thinking the same could be done with like drone aircraft or drone fighter aircraft or
Absolutely.
drone armor. I don't think it's going to be we're not going to be as unbeatable as we like to think we are. The human element can be planned for.
Until John Connor shows up and teaches us how to beat those metal bleep bleep bleeps into the dust.
So
Damn.
speaking of John Connor, you've actually started seeing the memes, which means we're getting there where we've actually come up with our own racial slur for the robots. They're
Flankers.
called flankers now. So we need to come up with one for the drones because that's for the robots. So the drones need their own buzzers, maybe. I don't know. We've got to come up with something if we're going to see more of them.
I don't know. Kevin Eichenberry might have something to say about that if you start tossing the word buzzer around.
Yeah, well, I could take him in a fist fight. He's like 90, so I'm good. I kid, Kevin. I kid. I like the guy.
Ike, he doesn't mean it.
But I like seeing them when they are specialized. I think, seeing them as reconnaissance and exploration is always interesting because then you can have them task out to do certain things.
Right. Then there's the whole adaptive AI thing. Even if we have a drone that's not completely programmed to take on a human being, they can learn quickly. And you remember it was the Incredibles where Mr. Incredible is on the island and he's taken on the big robot, right? And it's been taught to learn its opponent's tactics and styles, and it plans for his next move and almost takes him out. I think we could see that kind of programming put into adaptive AI to run, for example, an autonomous fighter aircraft or autonomous armor units.
The other thing to think about is when you take the human out of the equation, your tolerances for G forces and heat and cold the drones can have all kinds of advantage over humans because we're pretty frail compared to them. And
right.
They can do things that we can't. So there's another aspect, not just intelligence, but also, just basic physics.
And that's another aspect that I really like about the whole SpecVic thing for drones. Is like for exploration stories. We can send them into those high radiation areas. We can send them into those high temperature areas, that we don't necessarily, with our flesh and blood bodies, that can tolerate. So I just, there's possibilities out there for SpecVic. I just think a lot of us, or a lot of writers, have been focused on near future technology instead of far future technology, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing to consider too is GPS jamming, spoofing. I mean, that's still a big thing. Even at the moment in certain conflicts. So yeah, that's yes, they have an advantage, but I mean, it's like that guy in Independence Day. I mean, sometimes if you're just doing it old school analog style,
right? Well, I
aerial
mean,
combat
we've
might
seen
be
that play
interesting.
out.
Right.
We've seen that play out in Ukraine. They've got both radio controlled and wire guided drones, and the
Yeah.
wire guided drones are harder to take out sometimes because they have a direct connection. Until
Yep.
you get down on the ground and can sever that cable as the drone goes by,
Yeah.
you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But once you sever the cable, it's game over. So.
The other benefit of that is you could exponentially, if you go, larger scale, because most people think drones, they want to go small. If you make them larger, you could end up with fighter squadrons where each squadron is one pilot, and then everything else is just drones mirroring what he's doing. And you just exponentially increase. I like the word exponentially, clearly, but you increase his lethality by now he's controlling essentially, because they're mirroring him, 6, 7, whatever fighter squadron is in your ethos, by himself.
If there's a weak point there, though, because if they're just mirroring what the head drone is doing, then you can reinvent the individual dogfight and mess them up. So, yeah.
I mean, that's not the only way to control them. I'm just saying, as an example,
I'm just saying.
if pilots in general support each other when they're flying in maneuvers.
Yeah, it could almost play out like a video game where you give orders to the AI controlled players in the game, and depending on how smart and adaptive they are, they can just run with those orders and make their own decisions and help the actual human pilot.
I do think we need a rule, though, JR. If we're going to have AIs that run like computers, we need the AI that's run like the computer to give us the Helldiver quotes as we go into battle.
I'd be about that.
I know you would. Nice cup of liberté. But yeah, I think if you think bigger, or you could get automated tanks, for instance, that can clear out ground obstacles, or mecha, because I know you love those, Michael.
Yeah, shoot, they were doing remote controlled stuff as far back as World War II in Korea to clear minefields.
And I have seen
as advanced as anything we have today, but where I think I remember something about even in World War II them remote control piloting planes for stuff. Yeah,
I've seen remote control lawnmowers, and I want one.
We got one at where I work. They've got several what I call lawn Roombas. They are lawnmowers that are just like a Roomba. They have GPS positioning, and they drive around campus cutting the grass. I once about 2 weeks ago, there were 8 Amish guys just absolutely fascinated following this lawn robot around campus, just like, Oh.
Those things can
That's
get on
great.
some steep angles. Like I see them around town here. Like, cause the nickname of where I live is Hill City, and it lives up to its name. But we got some steep hills, and like Public Works won't mow the really steep parts manually, but they'll have these like giant, almost like yellow spider looking robots mowing the sides of the hills, and it's kind of cool.
And that's what I was thinking, another use for these things. You could have actual smart bombs, like cluster munitions that attach themselves to an enemy vessel, sprout legs, and crawl to really vulnerable places and then detonate instead of just detonating on impact, right? It could have the schematics for an enemy ship or an enemy fighter programmed into it, and it knows right where to go. Just think about how bad that would be. You fly through a cloud of these things, and all of a sudden they're all heading towards your main engine cowling, and you're done. You're done.
You just don't want them to be too smart. In the main series for Galaxy's Edge, was it Wraith's?
Oh yeah,
tech dude. Yeah. He makes the missiles, gives the missiles personalities.
The personalities.
They achieve sapience, I guess, and they start back talking them and start morally.
It was in X-Force too. X-Force had that same kind of thing where the missiles actually got into arguments with each other and had personality conflicts and stuff. It was freaking hilarious, man.
Madness. Yeah, the thing with drones too is, or the term drone, it pops up like really far back. That famous image of Marilyn Monroe during World War II. She's like building something it looks like a rocket or something, but it turns out it's a drone, like a drone missile or something, or a drone bomb.
I don't remember this picture.
In the original Captain America, in the Avengers comic from the 60s, in the flashback that Captain America presents to the Avengers, where he and Bucky are trying to defuse a bomb, and Bucky, dies in the process. That's a drone that they're clinging to just before
They use that
detonates.
in the movie too, by the way, with the aircraft that the Red Skull was on right at the end of the film. A lot of those bombs were self-guided, self-piloted, autonomous bombs.
I just assumed it was a term from the 2000s.
No.
I never thought much about the word, but I realized I'd been introduced to it many times. It just never sank in. And Warbots, the series is great. I found that in a library in Tampa, Florida, in the late 80s, and the covers were amazing. And,
they were great.
A lot of fun.
They were great covers.
A lot of
the covers that they did when they reprinted them were not as impressive as the early covers. The early covers, that artist had a flair for sculpture as well as
you could tell
photography, and he was taking bits and pieces of different things and putting them inside the brain case. It was just cool stuff. If you guys go look up some of the old covers, they were neat.
Yeah, they're really neat. But the term has been around for a long time, and I just never noticed until going back and just randomly encountering them. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we've covered some of the future uses. Do you think we're going to see them used potentially in water explorations? Because we've talked about essentially astronaut type stuff, but not aquanauts. The water is one of the last frontiers.
That's the best place to use them right now. I mean, as long as we're, wanting to explore, we know so little about the ocean floor because of the pressure issues. And if you can send something down there, I don't think we would have found the Titanic without the use of basically water UAVs, right? Because they sent, what was that, Jason?
Yep.
What was the name of it?
Yeah. It's not a cable, but yeah.
Yeah, it was on a cable, but it was still as remotely piloted, and it didn't have the pressure issues to deal with. You didn't have to worry about everybody dying in a janky submarine with a Logitech controller while they're down there. So
self-selection,
right, yeah.
Hey, it was Bodie McBoatface, all right? What are you going to do?
Bodie McBoatface, yeah. Missile face.
Do you think you're going to end up with a point where the naming conventions change, or drones always going to be unnamed? Because right now drones tend to be unnamed because they're considered small enough that they don't warrant names like something larger would.
It depends. I think if humans are flying them, like controlling them, you're gonna. I would be very surprised to learn that Predator drones don't have names.
Oh, they have to.
From
They're
their
soldiers.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. You give a soldier a weapon, he's going to name it. That's just
we named our rifles, for God's sake. I know they're naming the drones. Yeah.
What did you name yours?
Well, it was Betty, of course.
Mine was Michelle. So
I named mine after the artificial intelligence that runs the battle mechs.
Nerd. Okay. All right. So I know we've kind of, hit broadly on the topic. Is there anything about drones, more broadly speaking, without us going too specialized, that we haven't talked about that you think we should?
Drone broads. There we go. You said not so broadly, but yeah.
Okay.
As long as the drone broads are broad, where a broad ought to be. No, wait, that's something else. Never mind.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
At one point in time, we're going to get drones good enough that they'll put the cannon cockers out of a job.
Hey, why not? Go for it.
You think about it, our autonomous artillery makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Give it the grid coordinates, and drive over here, shoot over here.
I wonder if at some point in time the cluster there's the concept where you drop munitions and then they spread out and you end up with aerial dispersed minefields. At some point in time, those are going to become controllable enough that those will become drones as well, which gets a whole lot more interesting when it comes for future tech. I think if you want to follow these concepts, one place to look is DARPA, Defense Research. I don't remember what DARPA stands for, but they put out a lot of interesting stuff. Obviously some of it's still classified, but they put some publicly available stuff as well. It's pretty cool. They do an X Prize every year where they, pick a topic and let people try to create stuff. So it's something to look at. Anything else you think we should talk about that we haven't?
I think we should have drone pets.
Exactly. Please.
Well timed, JF. Well timed.
I was not JR Wise barking. That was my dog.
No, I know. I meant you.
I was just making sure we knew it wasn't the Marine. Okay. This is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind in the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. And because Jarret was kind enough to tell us about his drone book, I will link it as well with the sponsorship. So buy his book, read it, leave a review. He will love you forever. Not for a long time, but he will love you forever. And with that, I will let these fine folks tell us where they can find them on the Wild Wild Interweb. Starting with that voice in your head, Mr. Michael LaVoice.
Hey, you can find me at michaellavoice.com. That has links to pretty much everything. You can find me here on YouTube on my channel, La Voice in Your Head. Same thing for TikTok. On X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it this week, I am that Michael LaVoice because there's apparently more than one of us out there. And on Facebook, I'll hang out in various places, and you can find me creeping around the Three Ravens server on Discord, as well as sometimes lurking at Canon Publishing's Discord and hanging out at several other Discords. I like Discord. JF, you should come on Discord. It's fun.
I only have so much time to run the company, write, work my day job. When you have demanding, beautiful wives named Karen, it's tough. It distracts you a lot. And someday though.
All right. Speaking of demanding, Jarret, how can we find you on the Wild Wild Interweb? And as usual, all the links will be in the show notes.
You can find me at jarretkeen.net, and you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, author Jarret Keene. And you drop me a note, let me know what's going on, and follow me, and I'll follow back.
And not Skynet, though, not that net. Wrong net. He doesn't like Skynet. What about you, Holmes? Where might we find you on the Wild Wild Interwebs?
Well, our website is Canon Publishing with 2 N's .us, and I am on Facebook with JF Holmes, and we have the Command Post is our Facebook group, and we have a Discord channel. And I'll be at New York City Comic Con in 2 weeks, which I'm very pumped about. So.
Are you dressing as a hell diver?
No, I'm dressing as a middle-aged man trying to sell science fiction books.
Wow, that's an interesting costume.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to buy the clothes for it.
I believe it. I'm sure it's going to be all the pins that you have to add to your clothing and the pocket protector.
No, I got to find some cargo shorts.
Oh, absolutely. And a Hawaiian shirt.
I have one of those.
Oh, okay. So you're already halfway there. All right. What about you, JR? How might we find the other JR, the skinny, the pretty JR?
Oh, I don't know any skinny or pretty JRs, but you can find me most active on Instagram at the Wise Author, TikTok, occasionally hop on Facebook. You can find me on Steam if you want to play Helldivers, also at the Wise Author, easy to find. Yeah, on this podcast occasionally.
And his TikTok and you put him on Instagram too, right?
Yeah.
His videos are hilarious.
They're fantastic.
So if you've got
them.
a few minutes to kill, watch those videos. You will laugh. The jokes are top notch. I tried to be funny, but I never am on purpose. So, you want to see funny, go to watch his content. You'll enjoy yourself. You can find us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, Blasters and Blades Podcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only. People save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/AuthorJR Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/AuthorJR Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it pours out of their gas mask, and then they snort it up again and get high on their own supply. Do you want some of your own coffee brand coffee? Use the link in the show notes. The discount code is podcast grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am JR Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Don't cuss yet, people. Wait.